Now, when Eddie Merckx visited Australia back in 2010, he asked to see just one man. You may not have heard his name, but he's one of the quiet legends of Australian cycling, Don Allan.
I think the big shock is when you go to Europe, there's not only another 10 or 20 riders as good as you, and then you've got the ones that are a lot better than you. So you might be in the top 1 or 2 here or 5, but when you go over to Europe, it's just a whole different ballgame.
Don Allan launched into Europe when there was no support for anybody. He was one of the first in the modern era to riding the Tour de France, respected into pro teams at the time. So, yeah, he was a very big turning point in Australian cycling, in my opinion. Super strong, really classy rider.
In 1970, as an amateur, I had a really good season. I won or got fastest time. We had handicaps in those days. 50% of the races I went in was really good results. And then in November 1970, at the end of the season, I was involved in a car accident with a group of mates, fractured my sacrum and my pelvis. I was paralysed. They said I'd have trouble walking and probably wouldn't ride a bike again. So with a lot of perseverance, it took me about 1.5 years before I could finish a race and compete. And about a year after that, I went to Munich Olympics and then off to Europe in 73. 1975 Tour was probably the hardest one I rode. I think it must have been harder because I think only 85, 86 finished out of 140. I found myself running last. It was called the Lanterne Rouge, which means red light, the tail light of the group. I don't think of myself as being last because I think 140 started and only 85 reached Paris, so a lot of them were giving up each day, whereas I didn't. The French press were filming me and taking photos. It looked like I had it shot to pieces, so to speak. And one of the French riders, I dropped back to get something from the car. He dropped back also and went off the road and hid in the bushes. So when I got back to the bunch, we rode off, and I didn't know he was behind me. He waited for 10 minutes and came in late that stage, and he sewed up the Lanterne Rouge prize. And I remember that night on the table, his team was celebrating and they opened champagne and everything like that. They thought it was a real big deal. But myself, I really wasn't happy. I wasn't comfortable carrying the Lanterne Rouge. I know it's a big thing, a big race, but I don't believe he went into races to finish last, even that one. So I was quite happy for him to get last.